Alright guys, welcome back to the shop. I'm building actually a couple target stocks out of laminates for HW50. Started on these this morning about 7 o'clock and spent most of the day on them. Had about 4.5 hours of video footage, and I was able to cut it down to about a half hour. It kind of gives you the idea of what, is involved in doing everything from setting the blank up. Right here I'm just gonna bandsaw profile out the blank before I put it on the duplicator. Cuts time down considerably, not having to cut all the wood off with the duplicator. I'm doing a brown laminate and a what they call camo laminate, which is a brown, a gray, and a green. The camo laminate's already spoken for. I'm doing it for a guy in Boston named Nick. It's a twin spindle router, so I always set it up. This is the brown laminate right here. I had an unedited clip of profiling out the camo laminate blank, and it ran about a half hour just by itself. And this is a shorter version of it. This is actually the second one I was doing. I think I started working on this pattern. I had the idea I was wanted to build this stock about 8 years ago. That's how long it's been that I've had the pattern waiting to get completed. I'd like to take this same shape of stock and inlet it for our HW95, or what's known here as Beam and R9. That'll be the next project that I do as far as building patterns. I had used this pattern, I think, first on a 124. I also have this pattern for an HW80, but I haven't done any 80 stocks in a long time. After all the profiling and everything, I got it set up on the duplicator. Everything runs between centers. And I just pre-drill a hole for the center of it, and then where the worm gear drives all three, the pattern and the two that you're duplicating, has a spur drive on it, just like you would on a wood lathe. Anyway, a little later on, you'll see me setting the blanks up in the duplicator, setting up the centers and driving them back against a spur. I think this blank is like 2 7/16 thick. That's why I grab laminate on these. Most of my walnut blanks are like 2 1/8, 2 1/4. Air gun stocks typically are a lot thicker than what you get on firearms. You can get 2-inch thick blanks all day long. That's what most bolt action rifles use. This particular stock's got like a vertical grip, and the cheek piece, rollover cheek piece is set about the right height for most scopes that you would run medium mounts on. Got the camera set on a piece of wood. Every now and then I bump it, I'm sorry. I edited it down as much as I can. Right there I'm just trying to find the center of the blank. So when I set up my center holes, everything will line up. Like I said, I'll probably do the same pattern. I'll inlet it for 95. First one I did, like I said, was the 124 and the 80, but somebody had asked me to do one of these for 50. Asked me if I was going to, and I said I probably would, but didn't know when I would get to it. Anyway, I have just, this is like the trial run on my new spindles. The factory spindles. When I got this duplicator, the guy that had it before me evidently didn't tighten it down on the spindle that has a left-hand rotation. The inside of the spindle had kind of got chewed up. The spindle itself was the collet. It was just set up for 1/4 inch router bits. I'm still running the 1/4 inch router bits, but I made another set of spindles and set them up for an ER16 collet. I wanted on the old spindle because they had ran them a little loose or not enough of the shaft of the router bit up in it. They would work loose, and on real heavy cuts, like when I'm routing the big 3/4 carbide cutters, they would loosen up, and I'd have to keep a real close eye on it because it would walk down. And I keep the cutters pretty far away from the work when I first start out, until I switch to the finishing bits. But I had a couple of stocks real early on that before I knew to keep an eye on it, that the bit would walk down, and all of a sudden your pattern would be undersized. Where the receiver would meet the edge of the stock would be real thin, and it just one of them I was able to salvage before I had done the inletting. I realized how thin it was. I put it on a little bolt action 22. Was able to salvage it. But anyway, it got to be frustrating. This thing's been laying apart, and I've been building these spindles for the last started on last year. So this thing's been sitting idle for months and months and months. People have been waiting on stuff, and before I put any real super high grade walnut in, I wanted to run it. I didn't foresee having any problems. Right now I'm just setting up the stylus is the part that you trace with. It doesn't cut. You're tracing off that first one on the left, and then it just traces it out on the other two ones. So anyway, I have to set the height of the cutters. I had already clamped the cutters in. They're both even. But I typically come up on the metal on the front of the machine and get them all perfectly even, because all the spindles are set up exactly the same height in relation to that beam that runs across the front. And that's just me looking at it, checking the height. This video runs about a half hour, but yeah, I had almost 4.5 hours of footage. I had it about 45 minutes. I cut another 15 minutes out by, cutting out, profiling one of the blanks, and even this part here. And I'm still not done with it. At the end of this video, you'll see I have not started doing the inletting yet. This is just profiling them, getting them in the duplicator, and then getting the basic shape on the outside of them. I'll probably do another video of some of the finish work once it's out of the duplicator. Sanding it. This machine's pretty good about getting the screw holes pretty much where they need to be, but I scrape the inletting when I'm done, and then I've made cutters. I make guide rods and cutters, so once the holes are all undersized when I get it off the duplicator, and then I've got guide rods that thread into wherever the securement screws are on the gun, and then I make a cutter that has a hole in it that'll match with the rod, so that way once once you put the action in the stock, all the screws are in absolute perfect alignment. And I also like to make cups to go in all the holes. It's like pillar bedding, they go all the way against the action, but that only really works if the cup that you put in is like a super tight press fit. I typically press them in and then do all the sanding with them pressed in place. But I have a shoulder that'll go all the way down to the action. As I'm working through this project, I'll probably get another video up of like making the Allen head screws for the action, and the cups. Maybe a little bit of sanding. I mean, this video is just a hair over a half hour long, and I notice that my longer videos don't get as the average watch time on them tends to be a lot less. Most people don't manage to make it all the way through, but I did want to kind of give the viewer, or anybody who's watching, an idea how long stuff takes. I mean, this is a half-hour video, but it's like from the time I started profiling them blanks, it was around 7, and I think I stopped working on this somewhere around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Anyway, coming up here, get a little closer view of the duplicator actually cutting, a little bit up closer view. Yeah, I was real happy with how these spindles worked out. They never slipped. I took a couple of pretty deep, hard cuts just at first, trying to see what they would do, but they never budged. They held real good. This is basically a pantograph, is what it is. You know, very similar to it. It's just you're tracing. In the past, I've told people, I say, oh, you know, have to fire up the duplicator, and every now and then I have a comment. You know, so once you turn it on, how long until you have a stop? You know, I guess people kind of had the concept that you drop the wood in it, push the button, and you could walk away and come back later and there would be a stop, which, yeah, you can do, I guess you can do that with CNC, which is the way everybody's going these days, but I'm not mass producing. I'm just building a few of these custom jobs here and there, and the expense of going CNC would be fine if I was just doing nothing but selling stocks, and I had enough people wanting stuff where I could be churning out, you know, 15, 20 of them a month, but there's not that kind of a demand. And plus all the other work that I have to do to get a complete unit completely done with the tuning and all the other custom parts and everything made for it. It's just, you know, I have no use for that many stocks. I probably do about, I guess, on a good year, 6, maybe 8 stocks. Don't do a bunch of them. Sometimes people call and say your stuff, I look on the classifieds and your stuff doesn't come up that often. It doesn't come up that often because there's just not that much of it out there. There's a few of them, but I guess that's good for whoever buys a custom rifle, because, you know, it's going to hold its value. There's not a lot of them out there. It's not, market ain't getting flooded with them. Anyway, I like the camo laminate. It's a real pretty stock. I told Nick I was going to be doing these, and gave him the option, the brown or the camo. And while I was filming this, I took a quick picture and sent it to him. And he confirmed, yeah, he wanted the camo. I'd like to do some more laminate. There's a couple of companies that do some laminates with a lot of different color combinations. I kind of like earthy tones. I don't like, you know, everybody's got their preference. I guess some people would like some of the more brilliant stuff. I'm a little more Anybody's been on my website can see I'm a little more traditional with the way I like, things laid out. But I've seen a couple that had like purple in it and a gray and a couple different browns, and it looked pretty good. These are more traditional colors, the green and the brown, and they're not horrifically expensive, but you get into some of those other color combinations, you wind up with $500-600 just in the blank. I typically have about 125, 150 in these. Yeah, it's starting to look like a stock now. You can see if they're going to look right. Before you start machining on them, they don't look like they have anything going on. Laminate's hard on the cutters too. The glue and everything in them, they typically dull the cutters quicker. That's why I do all the initial roughing with carbide router bits. I also got to be careful with tracing it, that you don't take chunks out. You gotta lead in a little bit, be careful where you lead in and everything, so you don't grab a big chunk and tear it out. The far right bit is a right hand cut, and the one in the middle is a left hand cut. And you can find all kinds of bits. I could even, now that I got ER collets in it, I could run different end mills, but finding the left hand bit, and you get very little kickback on this machine. I've run single spindle duplicators in the past, and anybody that's ran one knows how they'll bite and kick back and jump, but that having those spindles rotate in opposite directions really kind of cancels out a lot of that stuff. It makes it pleasant to run. They no longer make this duplicator. Terco got completely out of duplicators. This was their smallest of what they would consider a commercial grade duplicator. They had North Star duplicators, a little bit heavier, and they have an individual router for each spindle. The router is a spindle, and then I may be wrong on that. I have to go back and look. I haven't seen one in a while, but people would daisy chain those North Stars together, and have 8, 10, 16 spindles at a time. There was one that sold in Missouri a couple of years back. I think it had 24 spindles on it. They had stacked them all together, and they were making furniture furniture parts with it and stuff like that. And I seen one 8-spindle that did duck decoys. And this one works perfect for me. I don't, I can run one spindle at a time, but not as pleasant to run with just one spindle running. So. I guess you have to run it a little bit slower with 2 spindles. It's hard to say. I've only done a couple of stocks with single spindle. Yeah, we're getting pretty close to the end here. I cut out a lot. Most of this I just let the camera run the whole time I was working on all this stuff. And like I said, it just takes a while. Transition, I'll kind of get through all this and looking more and more like a stock. Anyway, I know this is a little bit longer. I don't know how many people watch it all the way to the end. Do appreciate you watching it. Like I said, as I get into a few more aspects of it all, the screw cups and sanding it, fitting the action and all that. I'll probably show some of the cutters I made for trimming screw holes and stuff like that. Anyway, leave a comment or two in the about what you think about laminate stocks. They're stable. I think you're guaranteed to get a certain look with them. Sometimes walnut you don't always get real pretty figure and everything. So these are, you know what you're going to get whenever you use a laminate. So walnut, it sometimes can be, some blank can look really good, and once you start cutting on it, once you start getting into it and everything, sometimes stuff disappears, or sometimes things show up that you didn't think would be there. But As these two stocks get completed and everything, I'll snap a few pictures and maybe do add those to the end of the videos. Even if I'm working on something else, videos about something else, I'll try and grab a few of these for pictures to show you how things are looking once it gets start getting completed. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. I appreciate it if you're still watching. Y'all have a good one.